Hi, hello, hey. So I've been thinking about where to start, and I really don't know where to start. And then I was thinking, well, what's the first thing you do once you signed the infamous billion-year contract for Church of Scientology C organization, which is their, ecclesiastical uh, organization. Anyways, what's the first thing you do when you sign the contract? You do a life history form. And what is that? So it's a whole bunch of questions. It's massive. It's like, I don't know, 200 questions or something. And I feel like anything involving Scientology comes with a list of 200 questions. And why is that? Probably to break down all your boundaries, personal boundaries. There are no personal boundaries in Scientology. But that's a tangent for another day. The life history form, it has questions like list all your living relatives, and I'm pretty sure you have to fill in their addresses and phone numbers as well. List any relations you've had of the romantic nature. List all the jobs you've ever had, your entire CV, all the different banks you've ever had, bank accounts and stuff like that. I don't think they actually ask for the bank account numbers. You guys, I did this the first time when I was 12 and the second time when I was 14 or 15. It was a long time ago. But basically it's just question after question after question, and at the end of it, they're gonna know everything about you, your entire life history. That's why it's called the life history form. And in part, this is because they want to know like who's coming into Sea Org, and in part, it's because if you blow, like if you leave without permission, they have all the addresses that you might run away to. So yeah, and I also think it's in part to just indoctrinate you to not have any personal boundaries. You don't have any private boundaries. Anyways, I'm not going to go through a life history form with you all today because I don't have one, and also I have boundaries now, or I'm trying to uphold boundaries now. So I'm not going to do that, but I was thinking it might be fun to do a bit of a timeline of how did I end up in Scientology and in the Sea Org, and why do I call myself second gen, though we are 3 generations, because my grandmother is in the Sea Org, or was in Scientology as well. Anyways, I thought I'd start with the timeline, and I'm going to show you the timeline because I like to know what's coming when I watch videos and stuff. So we'll start there, and then I'm going to walk you through it. So this is timeline. This is not a good setup, guys. I'm doing this on my phone. It's balanced on like a glass jar to get some height on it, but anyways, it is what it is. So this is the timeline we're going to look at. All right, and there's some not names, but family members written up there. And guys, I don't know how to flip a video. I'm such a boomer when it comes to tech. I've written this flipped. Like, I sat in front of the mirror and I've written it flipped. So, I mean, it's legible, right? I think it's legible. Okay, so first we're going to talk about a few people. My grandmother and grandfather, I'm going to call them Nana and Pop-Pop for this video. I have decided I'm not going out with any names, at least not today. So, Nana and Pop-Pop, these are my maternal grandparents. All right, and they had 4 kids. We've got my uncle the elder, that's what I'm calling him. We've got my mom, and we've got uncle the middle, and uncle the younger. So 3 boys and a girl. All right, now we're gonna start at the first important year, the year everything changed. 1967, a friend of the family, this family, was having some problems with drug addiction, and took a trip to England and found Scientology and got off drugs, which, I mean, good for him. Excellent. He came back to Sweden and told the family all about it, and they got really excited. So that summer, 1967, Uncle the Middle, he's pretty adventurous, guys. He takes off to England. He goes to England. He goes to St. Hill, I think, and he gets involved in Scientology. So he comes back and he's all super hype and lets the rest of the family know, you guys, this is awesome. You all got to find out. And then in the summer, no, sorry, that was summer. In the autumn, Uncle the Elder and my mom, they're like, all right, let's find out what this is. And they take a trip to England and they get all involved in Scientology. Okay, so then they come back to Sweden, 1968. In the spring of 1968, my Nana, she goes over to England and she gets all involved in Scientology. Later in the year, Uncle the Younger, he goes over to Sweden and he gets all involved in Scientology. All right, 1968, my mom and Uncle the Elder, they lead the way. They join staff in England. So they leave Sweden. They've signed 2.5-year contracts, maybe 5-year contracts. I don't actually know. And they join staff in England. All right. We have Uncle the Younger. I didn't put this date up, but in 1969, he's like, you know what, guys? Scientology, this isn't really for me. But he maintains a kind of neutral position to it. And so he's no longer active, but he's still, allowed in the family. And also, interesting side note, Pop, he doesn't ever get involved. And my Nana's sister, she also doesn't ever get involved. So the whole family didn't join, just a number of them. All right. So what's the next date here? 1976. 1976, my mom has been on staff in England. She was in the Guardian's office, which is what the Office of Special Affairs of today used to be called. She was doing missions to Sweden, to the orgs in Sweden, to, I don't know what they were doing, but they weren't doing everything correctly. So she was, there. Trying to set things straight, I guess, or dealing with some bad public relations. But yeah, she was in the Guardian's office, and she did missions for them here in Sweden. And apparently on one of these missions, she also met my dad. But she was actually married in England. But in 1976, she went back to England. She left staff. She had worked out her contracts, so they, it wasn't a blow or anything. She was allowed to leave. They weren't happy with it, of course. They never would be. And she also divorced the guy that she had been married to there. And she moved back to Sweden just in time for 1977, when my brother was born. That's my brother. Oh, there's some drawings on the other side of the whiteboard. That's my daughter. She's been drawing. All right. So that's my bro. He was born in 1977. Then we get me. I'm born in 1982. Yeah, that makes me kind of old. Okay. 1984. 1984, my mom and my dad, they're like, you know what would be good for family life? Let's join the Sea Org in the United States. So 1984, April 1984, I know because I found a really old passport of mine, and it's got a stamp in it for United States immigrations of April 1984. I don't remember the date. I'll have to find it someday. We arrived in Los Angeles, actually. Me, my mom, my dad, and my brother. I was 2 years old, 2 years and a month, and my brother was 7. And my dad and my mom were supposed to be trained as auditors. Now, I don't know what went down, whatever, but my mom was sent to flag and my dad stayed in LA. And my mom, instead of being trained to be an auditor, she was assigned the post of nanny. So she was taking care of little kids, especially younger kids at my age. So toddlers in diapers. And not long after they arrived, my dad was like, hey, this is bullshit to be separating families. And he blew, as in he left without permission, from LA to Flag in Clearwater, Florida. So, but when he arrived at Flag, they're like, oh, you blew, so you have to do the RPF. And as far as I know, he started that. And after a while, he was like, nah, fuck this, man. Oh, sorry. He was like, no, I'm out of here. And he left the Sea Org and he moved back to Sweden. And he has almost never spoken about it since then, as far as I know. I tried to get him to tell me all about it once, and it was like pulling teeth. It was really hard to get him to talk about it. Anywho, moving back on. 1988 to 2000, there's a question mark. So at some point around early 80s, my mom is not the only one that joins the Sea Org. Uncle the Elder also joins the Sea Org, and Uncle the Middle joins the Sea Org. I think he joins the Sea Org. Anyways, somewhere around 1988, I think it's 1988 to approximately 2000, Uncle the Middle got into some financial irregularities and he was declared and kicked out. So he was declared and he didn't have any more contact with my mom, with his older brother, or with my nana. They all disconnected from him. And he, at this time, he was married to another Sea Org member, so they left together. She has 3 children from previous marriages. They are my step cousins. And they moved to Denmark and they built a life for themselves. And they also did their A to E steps, which is if you get declared from Scientology, in your declare order, they also give you a list of steps to do. They're called the A to E steps because they're listed A, step B, step C, down to E. And once you've done those, then you can come back into good standing in Scientology. And they did that. It took them approximately 12 years. And now Uncle the Middle and his wife and my step cousins, her 3 children, they are all back in good standing in Scientology. They're making progress up the bridge to total freedom. As far as I know, at least my uncle and his wife, they've done some pretty serious steps. I think one or both of them are on OT7, operating Thetan level 7, which is really high up on the bridge to total freedom. And I'm not sure how much the children are involved, actually. I know that they're involved to the point that they speak Scientologese, because when I've hung out with them, they used those types of words. Okay. So what do you have left? 1989, my brother starts acting out, and my mom asks him how he likes being in the Cadet Org, which is the children's sea organization, and he said he doesn't like it. And so they decide that he gets to move home to Sweden and live with my dad. I came with him. We came here for like summer break, and then I found out I was going back on my own and I didn't want to, so I stayed here a little bit longer until my mom came and got me. But yeah, 1989, my brother is 12 years old, and he leaves the world of Scientology, not completely, but he leaves the Sea Org and the Cadet Org, and he lives with my dad and leads pretty much a normal life. He does get involved in Scientology later as well, but that's really his story to tell if he ever wants to tell it. Okay, pause for a sip of tea. Guys, I got my Helicopter mug. If you don't have one, You should get one. It's really nice and big. I like it. The favorite mug handle I've ever had. Okay. So, where are we now? 1989. 2001. I am 4 months short of my 20th birthday. I have had enough, and I forced the Sea Org to kick me out. And if you want to know the story behind that, you need to check out Kelly Copter's channel. If I can figure out how to link it below, then I will. Otherwise, I'll put it in a comment. I did an interview with her, and we cover how I managed to leave the Sea Org. Yeah. But that's when I leave, November 2001. This 2 months after 9/11, and I am terrified of leaving the world I grew up in. I'm terrified of the world outside, and the first thing I see when I walk into Tampa International Airport to get on my plane is like a whole bunch of soldiers with automatic rifles, and I nearly shit my pants. Yeah, I was really scared, guys. It was hard. It's hard to leave everything you know. And I had been brought up to think the world was scary, and seeing soldiers all over the airport, and almost no one else was flying at this time because this was, like I said, 2 months after 9/11. There were more soldiers and cops and security at the airport than there were airplane passengers. I was so scared. And someday I'm going to tell you a funny story about that, because I didn't even have a valid passport. Like, in retrospect, it's kind of funny. At the time, I was terrified. All right. Oh, and before we get on to the last date, my cousins. So, Uncle the Elder, he has 2 daughters. They are approximately my age. I believe one is about a year older and the other one a year or 2 younger. I've met them only a few times in my life. They are also raised in the Sea Org, in the Sea Organization, in the Cadet Org, but not at Flag, in Denmark. And if we want to talk about isolating people, these 2 girls raised in Denmark, they have a Danish nationality. They never learned Danish because they never went to a real school. They were taught English because that was the language being used at the Sea Org base in Denmark. So they speak English. They don't even speak Danish, which is the official language of the country where they have citizenship. So if they wanted to leave, they can't even speak their home country's language. That's isolating. Anyways, they haven't left. They're still both in. I don't even know where they are now, because they've been moved around a lot. All right, 2017-ish. Guys, I don't have a great memory. If you've seen the helicopter interview, you know I'm doing a psych evaluation for autism. Included in that evaluation, we're going to be looking at ADHD, and that has its own special consequences on memory. But yeah, also I realized this not very long ago, but a little while ago. In therapy, we were talking about dissociative states, and it turns out I've been dissociating most of my life. So dates, years, I don't really keep track. But I do know I was in the first term of my career guidance and school guidance education at university. And when I count backwards, I know that I started my university education in August of 2017. So somewhere between August and, well, New Year's 2017, I woke up. I realized I was in a cult. I realized Scientology was a cult. My whole world got turned upside down. I had been drifting for a long time. I hadn't been active anywhere for a long time. but suddenly realizing that everything that you grew up believing, and a lot of it I still believed, that was all a lie. That was pretty tough. Yeah, anyway, so somewhere around 2017 I woke up. I have been processing, I have been trying to figure out what I believe in, what I don't believe in, what my values are as a human, for a long time. Yeah, and I've been doing some therapy as much as I can afford, when I can afford it, and yeah, it took a long time before I was ready to start speaking out, and when I did, that had consequences, of course. I lost contact with my mom, mainly, and you know, 2 uncles and their families I've also lost contact with. So there's that. All right, well, that was a mini version, timeline version of my life history. And I'm thinking for the next video, I might be reading an article by Robert J. Lifton. If you guys don't know who that is, he studied mind control or coercive control methods in the 1960s and 70s. Probably one of the first experts on cults. And I have an article from him. It's not very long, and it's going to cover his 8 criteria of mind control. And I was thinking I would read through that article, and then I would present to y'all the 8 criteria and how I think Scientology meets or not those 8 criteria, which, I mean, I know Scientology is a cult. I think everybody here watching thinks probably the same. But if you're here because you're curious, maybe you're a Scientologist and you're just looking around, this is what woke me up. This is Lifton's 8 criteria is what made me go, holy shit, I was raised in a cult. So, and it's not biased because he wasn't looking at Scientology. He was looking at POWs from the Korean War. That's what his research is based on. So if you're kind of lurking here and you're in Scientology, or if you're in any other group that kind of makes your gut not feel great, this might be an interesting place to start. Let me know what you think. I plan on doing kind of like a book club. I've got a whole bunch of books I'd like to get through, and having to tell you guys about them might keep me accountable. We'll see. And all right, that's it. Thank you for listening. Remember, mental health is important. Go get therapy. Take your meds if that's what you do. Don't be culty. Have a great day.